Well, Ashley, thank you so much for joining me as a guest for this episode. I'm really excited to hear your story and your experiences as we explore this topic of sobriety. And so I'm just going to jump right in and ask you to share a little bit with how you got interested in the topic of sobriety.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd heard of dry January and a lot of people doing it. I had
Yeah.
one specific friend who her and her husband were doing it, and she was telling me about it and telling me about like all these great things that were happening for them. Like they were
Okay.
sleeping better, and I was like, I want that.
Yes, please.
Like, I want to sleep better. And so it kind of started from a space of like just being curious and like noticing where alcohol showed up in my life. And, it was like I'd come home from work and have a glass of wine. And so it started to be like, why? Like, why am I doing this? Like,
Yeah.
why is it like our go-to as friends to have like a wine night? Like, why can't we do something else? And so
Hmm.
it just kind of gave me this space of curiosity and kind of sparked from there.
Yeah. I love that. I
Yeah.
love whenever curiosity like plants its little seed in our head to just ask the question why, like you said. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing that as you were starting kind of this adventure, you maybe thought, right, like my sleep's gonna be better, or whatever those other kind of things that you thought might would be better. What were some of those things that you anticipated being different?
Yeah. So I thought it was going to be great from like day one.
Oh,
Like I would be like 3 weeks in, like running marathons, like sleeping 10 hours a night, like living my best life. And
yeah.
like that was like actually not the case. And it was a little bit lonely at
Mhm.
times, a little bit isolating. It felt like at the beginning. And I'll be honest, like I'm a little bit over a year now into it. And I still have moments where like it's not always great.
Sure.
And so I think like sitting in that space it was different for me,
Mhm.
right? Where it's like you feel like you take something out of your life that maybe isn't meant to be there, and then it's still not 100% like sunshine and rainbows,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And then I think my other big thing was I thought people would celebrate it a lot. Like
Okay.
I thought even my family would be super excited for me because like you see people on social media like quit drinking, everybody's like, "Yes, girl, get it."
Yes.
And that wasn't the case. And I feel like I had to tell people that I wanted to be celebrated
Oh,
and like
interesting.
bring them into that space with me.
Hmm.
And that was hard, where
Hmm.
it was just like, I thought they would know. And so I worked with my therapist through some of it. And she was
Yeah.
like, your friends and family, like, they're not mind readers.
Hmm.
So, like,
Hmm.
they don't know that this is hard. Like, they don't know that you want them to celebrate you. They don't know what a win looks like for you. And
Oh, yeah.
so, sharing that, I think, was one part that, like, I didn't anticipate it being like that for me.
Yeah, yeah. And when you did share that, how was it received by your friends and family? Was it what you had hoped it would be, where they were celebrating you, or did you run into some bumps with that?
Yeah, so most of the time people celebrated it, right? They were like, oh, that's cool. I
Yeah.
had no idea, right? Where I'm like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
I came home from work. I wanted to have a glass of wine today. I took my dog for a walk instead. Like it was really pretty at the park. And they're like, oh, cool. Right. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it was like anticlimactic too, where they're like, good for you. Right. Like
Yeah.
that's for you. And so it was also like me getting comfortable just celebrating myself and being
Yeah.
like, it's not for them. This is for me.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so that was also like a interesting space to navigate and also like ended up being super rewarding because at the end like it's great to have other people celebrate you and like be part of it,
Hmm.
but it's not for them. Like I
Yeah.
did this for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Actually, gosh, you touched on two things in there that I like continue to come back to in like a bunch of episodes. One is that like sharing our things, right? Like sharing our rewards, our celebrations. Like I've talked about it in a work setting before, but I think it's really powerful in this personal setting as well of like people aren't mind readers, like your therapist said, like you need to share your own successes, toot your own horn sort of thing. And
mhm.
and I think that that's really difficult for women to do, but really powerful is what I heard as you were talking about that. And then, gosh, I just lost the second one that you like just learning that it's about us, right? Like learning that
Mhm.
that we're the priority. And again, as women, sometimes we just want that validation from others. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing both of those pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned earlier that, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows right from the beginning and continues to have some challenging times. What was the biggest challenge that you faced and kind of how did you overcome it?
Yeah. So I think for me, it was just learning to sit in discomfort
Mm,
where I went to alcohol. What I learned for me is that alcohol is an escape. That if
gotcha.
I was uncomfortable in a situation, well, if I just had a drink, like, then I'm doing what everyone else is doing and it's okay, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And anxiety is something that I have struggled with my whole life. And as much as I didn't want to admit it, having alcohol intensified that, right?
Okay.
Where like
Yeah.
maybe it made it okay in the short term, but then in the long term, it wasn't helping,
Hmm.
right? Because we
Yeah.
had like the anxiety afterwards of like, did I say something I shouldn't have said? Or like, did they notice I had two drinks instead of one at a work function? And it's like, no, they probably didn't notice that, but now I'm going to think about it.
Right.
And so just being able to like sit in the space, recognize my feelings and name them,
Hmm.
and then figure out like what was the thing beneath the thing, right? And so
Yeah.
I called it like playing it through. And
Okay.
so I don't know where I came up with that, but it was just like I would fast forward the situation that I was in of like, all right, so I went to a professional networking event, like this as an example, and
Mhm.
I felt like everyone there was having a drink. And I was like, I should have a drink so that they don't think I'm a weirdo. And it's
Mm,
like, okay, I could do that, yes, sure. But then what comes next? And then what comes after that? And is it going to make me feel better at the end? And a lot of times the answer was just no,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
And so, like, sitting in my feelings, opting out of things that maybe I would normally opt into, and just learning like what works for me. And
Mhm.
so, like I said, playing it through, journaling, stepping outside of the situation, just like grounding myself in that. Like, I learned like the discomfort, it like doesn't break you. Like, it
Mm,
honestly, like moving through it, like that's where you grow
yeah.
and you truly like I got more comfortable with like me with Ashely. Like this is
Yeah.
who I am. This is what I like. This is what I don't like.
Hmm.
And so it was really cool.
That is cool. That is really cool. I appreciate you sharing that. Like those moments are really powerful when we start to think about like, being uncomfortable and really like grounding ourselves in who we want to be, who we are, and those sorts of things. So, wow, that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you know that this podcast is about women's empowerment and advocacy, and so why is this topic on sobriety important for women to be discussing?
Yeah. So for me, it just felt like as a woman, I was sold this idea that alcohol is self-care.
Mm,
And like that's not true.
yeah.
Right. Like it's how like I feel like society teaches us like that's how we relax, like that's how we bond with our friends, that's how we celebrate.
Hmm.
And like it felt like it disconnected me, like it disconnected me from myself. And like I feel like when women can kind of get honest with ourselves and say like this is what my relationship is with alcohol, healthy or unhealthy, right? Like
Yep.
it's different for everyone. Like we take our power back in that, and like we can be countercultural. Like we don't have to do what society says. Like we can stop pretending, like get real and like create a space for ourselves where like we can heal, we can be ourselves, like yeah, and just connect with others.
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool. I hadn't really thought about alcohol in terms of like that's how we tell one another to deal with self-care, right? Like, oh, just have a glass of wine and read a book, or
Right.
that's a very common culture example, and
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you kind of illuminating that because, yeah, you can have a book without reading, like, you can read a book
Yeah,
without having a glass
yeah.
of wine, right? Like, you can do a lot of things without some of that alcohol stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool. So I'm gonna think about that for a little bit. I'm gonna think about that
Yeah.
differently. So,
It's like interesting when you start to notice it. Like you'll
mm,
notice like in advertising for alcohol too,
yeah,
where it's like somebody with a whole bunch of friends and like they're on a trip and they're living their best life. And it's like, oh my gosh, if I have that, then I get this. And it's
yeah,
selling this idea that like alcohol equals friendship, it equals connection, it equals vacations, like
yeah,
luxury things. And if you pull it away, I'm like, I can still totally have those without that.
yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely will start looking at ads differently on TV or commercials. My kids call them
Yeah,
ads. I guess they're
that's
commercials
so cute.
still. Oh gosh. Well,
Uh,
Ashley, I think that like a lot of your examples and your stories that you have shared have been really powerful and I think pretty relatable as well as I just even I don't drink a lot and once every couple of months sort of thing, but
mhm.
like yeah, it makes me think about why do I have a drink or those sorts of things. So I appreciate you sharing those experiences. I'm curious, what kind of tips would you have for my listeners if they're like, you know what, I want to give this a try and I want to try going sober, even if it's for a short period of time or a long period of time?
Yeah, I would just say start with a space of being curious about it, just like noticing where alcohol shows up in your life, just like being like open to it. And then it doesn't have to be like this all or nothing thing, right? Like it's not a forever commitment,
Mm-hmm.
like I would say give it a solid 30 days though. And like just be really honest with how you're feeling, like journal it. Say, like day one, I slept like crap. Great. I was sleeping like crap before, right? But
Right.
like at day 30, you're like, do I feel better? Like how is my anxiety? Like checking in with yourself through that. Like it's just yeah, that's really important. And then I think also just building like a toolbox from that of like
Mm-hmm.
what works for you. So it's not necessarily about like taking something away. It's like, what are you adding into your life instead of it,
Mm,
right? Like if you
yeah.
would sit at night and, have a drink and watch TV, like what could you be doing instead that's also maybe serving you better at this point in your life?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. Like not always removing, but like adding in. I think that that's a powerful and important thing as well because we feel like things are being taken away from us. That can be a very, and you mentioned this earlier, a very lonely feeling as well.
Hmm.
And so, I like that idea of what else could you be doing in place of. So. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. Well, this has been fascinating for me. I love this topic. Like you had mentioned, I have also seen it on social media where friends are like, yeah, dry January or whatever months that they're choosing to do it. And so I think that it's been a really eye-opening topic for me to learn a little bit more as well. And so as we wrap this episode up, I'm just curious, what kind of final thoughts do you have for my listeners?
Yeah, I just think if someone's kind of feeling that tug, it doesn't have to be like this dramatic, you hit rock bottom, you need
Yeah.
to quit. Like if you're just feeling a little tug, like just be open to like, what you could be making room for in your life,
Yeah.
whether that's clarity, whether that's connection, confidence, like that's enough. Like you are enough in itself to like make that choice for you. And like there could be something really awesome waiting for you on the other side of it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so
Yeah.
much. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for spending some time and sharing your story and your experience and giving my listeners maybe something different and new and interesting to try in their lives as well. So I appreciate your time and your vulnerability in sharing your story.
Thank you.
Yeah. Friends, thank you for joining again and for rejoining after this break. And hopefully, this was a great topic to come back from break from. So, I hope that you also learned something from Ashley as she continues to share a little bit about her journey and her experiences with alcohol and being sober and choosing to get sober. And so, friends, as we head into our affirmations, I'm done apologizing for spending time focused on me. I'm done apologizing for choosing to try something different and hard and uncomfortable to see what benefits me. And this one's for you. I'm done apologizing for fill in that blank. Friends, go out there, have an incredible week, do the amazing things I know you're capable of. Remember to like, follow, and share wherever you're listening to this episode. And make sure you subscribe. You want to know when those episodes are dropping or when new content is hitting the airwaves for your ears to listen to. If you're not already, make sure you're over on social media. Follow me. I'm everywhere, literally everywhere. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Um, I'm on YouTube, so make sure you check out all those spaces where you can find me on social media, different content on different platforms. So make sure you're checking them all out. And if you want to be my guest, just like Ashely and all the other incredible guests I've had, and I will have, make sure that you fill out the form at the link in the show notes or on any of my social media platforms. You can find that form because we want to hear what incredible, passionate things you have to talk about as well. And remember, you're fabulous. You're a badass. You've got this, and I'm here for you.